Bata sat in the lawyer's dim office, hands trembling as the envelope with his parents' will lay before him. He had expected inheritance, memories, perhaps a small token of their love, but nothing could have prepared him for this. As he slowly unfolded the papers, his eyes widened in shock. Every asset, every property, every account was left to Abio, the cousin they had always whispered about as different, special, more responsible. Bata felt his heart sink. Why had they erased him completely from their legacy? His mind raced. Was it revenge? A secret favor? Or something he never knew about his family? Bata could not move. His hands shook as he held the paper, his eyes stuck on the words that did not feel real. Everything, every piece of land, every house, every account, was written under one name, Abio. Not his. Not even a share for him. The lawyer sat across the table, watching silently, like he already knew this moment would crush him. Bata's chest felt heavy, and his throat dry, but no words came out. His parents' faces flashed in his mind, and with it came every small memory that now made sense. The times they praised Abio for things Bata did too. The quiet way they always compared him. The way his mother smiled more at Abio's jokes. The way his father asked Abio for advice but ignored his. Bata remembered family dinners where he felt invisible, while Abio sat like a shining star at the center. He had always pushed those thoughts aside, telling himself love could not be measured. But now, staring at this will, it was as if all those moments were pieces of a puzzle. And the picture was clear. His parents had chosen Abio over him even in death. Bata felt his heart break in silence. He wanted to ask why, but the words stayed locked in his chest. The lawyer folded his hands, waiting, calm, almost too calm, as if he had seen storms like this before. Bata sat frozen, not just shocked but betrayed, feeling as if the ground under him had been pulled away. The room grew heavy, and in that moment, Bata realized nothing in his life would ever be the same again. Bata sat there, his eyes still on the paper, but his mind began to drift back through the years. Memories that once felt ordinary now returned with a new meaning. He remembered the times his parents called Abio into their room and closed the door behind him, leaving Batu outside, pretending not to care. They would sit for hours, whispering in low tones, and when the door finally opened, Abio came out smiling while his parents looked at him with pride. Batu used to tell himself it was nothing, just family talk, but now he wondered if those meetings had been about shaping a future that did not include him. He thought about the gifts, the way his father gave Abio an expensive wristwatch on his 18th birthday while Batu received only a book with a plain cover. He remembered how his mother would always say, "Abio understands responsibility," while reminding Batu to be patient, to grow, to learn. Back then, he had tried to believe those words were meant to guide him, but now they felt like warnings, hints that they had already chosen who truly mattered to them. Every small moment played back in his head. The secret advice they gave Abio, the way they sent him on family errands that Batu was never trusted with. He could see how they always praised Abio for his wisdom, his calm voice, his so-called maturity, while every effort Batu made was either ignored or corrected. It was as if his whole childhood had been preparing him for this moment of being left behind. His heart ached as he thought, had they always planned this? Had I been living in a shadow all along without knowing? Batu felt anger slowly rising, but beneath it was a painful doubt. Maybe his parents never saw him as worthy. Maybe every smile they gave Abio was a silent message that he was the chosen one. And Batu, no matter how hard he tried, had never been enough. He wondered if this will had been written long ago, while he still believed he was loved equally. He thought about the times he sat waiting for his father's approval, or the times he tried to impress his mother with his hard work, yet nothing ever felt good enough. Now he understood why. Their minds had been made up long before. That realization cut deeper than the words on the paper. For the first time, Batu questioned not just the will, but his entire place in his parents' hearts. That night, Batu could not sleep. The words from the will kept echoing in his head, and he felt like he was living inside a story that was never meant for him. He searched through his parents' old boxes, the ones they had kept in a locked trunk at the corner of the house. Inside were letters, journals, and scattered papers that smelled of age. At first, he thought he would only find ordinary family memories, but the more he read, the more his heart raced. In his father's handwriting, he found notes about keeping the legacy safe with Abio, and training him to carry the family's name forward. There was no mention of Batu. Each page stung like a wound. He turned to his mother's journal, written in neat lines, and there he found entries where she praised Abio's wisdom beyond his years, and her belief that he would be the one to protect the family wealth. Batu's name was there too, but mostly in ways that made him feel small. Words like Batu is kind but too soft, or Batu must learn to listen. Reading those lines, he felt like his parents had judged him long ago and decided he would never be strong enough. But what unsettled him most were the cryptic notes hidden between the pages. A letter without a signature spoke of guiding Abio into position and making sure the rightful heir is protected. Another note mentioned meetings with people Batu did not recognize, names of outsiders who seemed to have advised his parents about who should inherit everything. The handwriting was hurried, almost secretive, as if written in fear of being discovered. Batu's hands shook as he unfolded another small paper tucked into the back of a journal. It spoke of keeping Batu away from certain matters and not letting him interfere. His heart sank. It was not just favoritism. It felt like a plan, something carefully built over the years to push him aside. He sat there surrounded by papers, his mind full of questions. Was Abio behind this? Had he manipulated his parents, slowly convincing them he was the only one worthy? Or had his parents truly believed Batu was not capable enough? The thought that his own blood could betray him this deeply cut him open inside. Batu realized he had stepped into a hidden world within his own family, a world built on secrets, betrayal, and choices that had erased him from his own legacy. And now, with every paper he read, he knew this was only the beginning of uncovering the truth. Batu could not carry the weight of the secrets he had found alone. He decided to speak with his relatives, hoping they would help him understand why his parents had shut him out of their final wishes. He started with his uncle, a man who had always seemed close to his father. Batu asked directly why the will had given everything to Abio. His uncle shifted uncomfortably and avoided his eyes. Your parents had their reasons, he said quickly, before changing the subject to something meaningless. The answer felt like a wall, hiding more than it revealed. Next, Batu visited his mother's elder sister, an aunt who was known for speaking her mind. But when Batu asked her about Abio, her face tightened. It's better you don't dig too deep, she whispered, glancing around the room as if someone might be listening. She spoke in half-sentences, warning him that family matters should not be dragged into the open. The way she spoke made Batu feel that she knew the truth, but had chosen silence over honesty. One by one he approached different cousins and relatives, and each time the pattern was the same. They became nervous when Abio's name came up. Some insisted that Batu should respect his parents' decision. Others praised Abio as though he was untouchable, describing him as the responsible one, or the chosen one. Batu noticed how quickly their voices softened when they spoke of him, almost protective, like Abio had some power over them or knew secrets they dared not cross. The more Batu asked, the more suspicious it became. No one gave a clear answer, no one admitted the truth, but the silence in their words spoke louder than anything. It was as if they all carried a secret agreement to protect Abio, even if it meant leaving Batu in the dark. With every vague response, Batu's anger grew, but so did his determination. If they were all this afraid to speak, then something bigger was being hidden. It was not just about favoritism anymore. It felt like a cover-up, something carefully built to keep Abio safe from questions. Batu left each conversation more unsettled than before, but also more convinced that he could not stop searching. His relative's silence had given him the answer he needed. The truth was out there, and Abio was at the center of it. Days turned into nights as Batu refused to let the mystery rest. He searched through every corner of his parents' study, opening drawers, shifting books, and turning over files that had been untouched for years. Then, hidden inside a thick folder marked with old property records, he found an envelope sealed tightly. His hands trembled as he opened it, and what he saw made his heart pound harder. It was a contract written in formal words, signed by both of his parents and a witness. The agreement was clear. Everything they owned, every asset, every piece of wealth, would pass directly to Abio. Batu read the lines again and again, each word cutting into him. This was not a mistake in the will. It had been planned years ago. The contract carried dates that shocked him. It was signed long before his parents had even spoken about their will, back when Batu was still struggling in school and trying to prove himself. The words spoke of trust in Abio's ability, and the need to protect the family's name. Bata felt crushed, realizing that while he had been fighting to earn their love, they had already chosen someone else to carry everything forward. As he read further, he noticed strange clauses. There were mentions of debts his parents owed, debts Batu had never heard about. In exchange for help that Abio had supposedly provided, his parents promised him the inheritance as security. Bata's head spun. Was Abio not just favored, but also tied to them through secret dealings? Had his parents given away his future to repay promises he never knew existed? He flipped through the pages, and at the bottom he saw Abio's signature too, neat and bold, as if he had known all along that the future was his. Bata's chest tightened. All the late-night talks, all the whispers behind closed doors, suddenly made sense. They had been building this path for years, and he had been blind to it. Holding the paper, Bata felt a mix of anger and disbelief. His entire life, he had been told to be patient, to wait for his time, to trust his parents' wisdom. Yet behind his back, they had already locked away his chance, sealing his fate with ink and signatures. The contract was not just a legal paper. It was proof that the betrayal was deeper than favoritism. It was a hidden promise, one that erased him completely, and it left Batu with only one thought. He had to uncover the full truth, no matter how painful it would be. Batu knew the contract was only one piece of the puzzle, so he turned his attention to Abio himself. If his cousin had been chosen to carry everything, there had to be more behind it. Quietly, without letting anyone know, Batu began to watch Abio's life more closely. He visited offices, asked questions, and followed the paper trail of businesses Abio was connected to. What he found was unsettling. Abio had his name tied to multiple accounts and companies, far more than a man of his age should have managed alone. Some of the records hinted at money moving in strange ways, hidden transfers that suggested careful planning. Bata realized Abio was not just lucky. He was deliberate, building influence step by step. He did not stop there. Batu started speaking with people who had known Abio over the years. Old classmates described him as clever but calculating, someone who always knew how to position himself for gain. Former colleagues hinted at deals where Abio came out on top while others mysteriously lost. Even within the family, Batu noticed how Abio had always managed to win trust by presenting himself as calm, dependable, and wise. But now Batu understood it differently. Abio had crafted that image carefully, using charm and patience as tools to get exactly what he wanted. Digging deeper, Batu uncovered hints of connections with outsiders his parents once trusted. These ties stretched back years, linking Abio to advisors who had helped shape his parents' decisions. It became clear that Abio had not just accepted their favor, he had earned it by weaving himself into every corner of their trust. He had studied their weaknesses, given them the answers they wanted to hear, and slowly made himself the only choice. What shocked Batu most was how many people seemed unwilling to speak openly about him. It was as if Abio carried secrets powerful enough to silence those around him. Everywhere Batu looked, the same pattern appeared: Abio rising higher, others stepping back, and a trail of quiet fear in his shadow. By the time Batu pieced it all together, he no longer saw Abio as just a cousin favored by luck. He saw a man who had built his life on strategy, ambition, and cunning, using every opportunity to secure power. For Batu, the truth was painful but clear. Abio had played the long game, and Batu had been the silent casualty of it all. Batu realized that anger alone would not change anything. If he let his pain control him, Abio would win easily, and his parents' choice would remain unchallenged. So, instead of drowning in bitterness, he decided to fight differently. He told himself that if Abio had built power through strategy, then he too would have to use his mind, patience, and effort to outsmart him. Bata began with the law. He contacted trusted lawyers outside the family circle, showing them the will and the hidden contract he had uncovered. They explained his rights and the loopholes that could be used to question parts of the agreement. Bata listened carefully, taking notes, learning step by step how inheritance battles were fought in court. For the first time, he felt he had a weapon of his own. Next, Bata turned to his finances. He had never been rich, but he had worked hard and saved more than his family believed. Quietly, he moved his savings into safe investments and reached out to business contacts who respected his honesty. He started small projects, ones that could grow steadily, and within months, people began to notice him not as the forgotten son, but as a man with his own rising strength. Each deal he made was like a brick laid in a foundation, giving him confidence that his future did not have to depend on what his parents left behind. But Bata knew power was not only about money and law, it was also about people. He began to reconnect with relatives and old friends who had once ignored him. Instead of begging for their support, he listened to their struggles, offered advice, and quietly helped them where he could. Slowly, whispers about his generosity and wisdom began to spread. Those who had once looked only at Abio started to see Batu in a different light. At the same time, Bata kept his eyes on Abio, watching how he moved in social circles. He made sure to appear at gatherings where Abio expected to shine, not to fight, but to show his presence and confidence. With every calm word and steady gesture, Bata reminded people that he was not weak, not forgotten, and not a man to be erased. The more Bata built his strength, the less afraid he felt of Abio's shadow. He understood now that real power did not come from favoritism but from resilience, courage, and smart choices. Abio might have inherited wealth and trust, but Bata was building something greater. His own name, respected by those who saw his true worth. By turning his pain into strategy, Bata was no longer the boy left behind. He was becoming a man ready to stand tall, no matter how strong Abio's hold seemed. This time, Bata was prepared not just to survive, but to fight back with dignity and intelligence. As Bata continued to build his strength quietly, something unexpected began to happen. People he had never thought would stand by him slowly started to come forward. One afternoon, a distant cousin, whom Bata barely knew, came to visit him. He spoke in a low voice and admitted he had always felt uneasy about how Abio seemed to control everything in the family. He told Bata's stories of family meetings where Abio spoke as if he was already the head, while others stayed silent out of fear. Hearing this gave Bata courage. He was not alone anymore. Soon after, an old friend of his father reached out. This man had once worked closely with Bata's father in business. He confessed that he had seen Abio influencing decisions long before the will was even written. According to him, Abio had carefully positioned himself as the solution to every problem, slowly replacing Batu in his parents' trust. The man handed Batu old documents and letters that supported his words. Bata realized that this was proof, real evidence that could help him when the time came. The most surprising moment came when one of Abio's own acquaintances approached Batu in secret. This person revealed that Abio was not as flawless as he appeared. Behind the calm smile and polite words, Abio had made enemies by stepping on those who helped him. Some of them had been silenced, but now, with Bata standing firm, they felt safe to speak. They began to share small but powerful details about Abio's manipulations, details that exposed the truth about how he had gained so much favor. Every conversation added strength to Bata's fight. Each new ally gave him more knowledge, more courage, and a clearer picture of Abio's hidden schemes. For years, Bata had believed he was standing in the shadows alone, but now he saw that others had been watching too, waiting for someone brave enough to challenge the silence. These allies were not loud or dramatic. They worked quietly with Batu, sharing information, encouraging him, and making sure he did not give up. Their support became like a net around him, keeping him from falling when the weight of betrayal felt too heavy. Bata's heart grew steadier with every secret revealed. What once looked like an impossible battle now seemed winnable. With allies from unexpected places, Bata knew he was no longer just fighting for himself. He was carrying the hopes of everyone who had been hurt or silenced by Abio's cunning ways. The day of the family gathering arrived, and the air was heavy with tension even before Bata walked in. Relatives filled the hall, chatting and laughing, but their voices faded the moment they saw him. For years, Bata had been the quiet one, the one left in the background, but this time he carried himself with calm strength. Abio was already there, smiling confidently, standing in the center as though he owned not just the inheritance, but the family itself. Bata greeted no one at first. Instead, he waited until the room settled, then stepped forward with papers in his hand. He began slowly, speaking clearly so every ear could hear him. At first, people looked confused, unsure why he was interrupting the gathering. But as Batu unfolded the story, the secret contract, the journals, the letters, and the testimonies from allies, the atmosphere shifted. Every detail revealed how Abio had carefully positioned himself, how he had influenced decisions, and how his parents had been guided into leaving everything to him. Bata's voice did not shake. He spoke with the weight of truth, and each word landed like a stone. Abio tried to laugh it off, calling it lies and jealousy, but Bata was ready. He held up the documents, proof with signatures that no one could deny. He shared the words of trusted friends and distant relatives who had witnessed Abio's manipulations. The room grew quiet, the laughter gone, replaced by murmurs and shocked glances. One by one, the guests turned their eyes toward Abio, waiting for him to explain what could no longer be hidden. For the first time, Abio's calm mask began to crack. His smile faded, his voice trembled, and he could not stop the sweat gathering on his forehead. Bata did not shout, he did not accuse with anger. Instead, he let the truth stand on its own. That made it even harder for Abio to fight back. Whispers filled the room, soft but sharp, spreading like fire through the guests. Some covered their mouths in disbelief, others shook their heads. The cousin they had always trusted, the one praised as responsible and wise, was now exposed before everyone. The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the shifting feet of those too shocked to speak. Bata stood tall in that silence. For the first time in his life, he was not the ignored son, not the forgotten heir. He was the man who had faced betrayal, uncovered the truth, and forced Abio to confront his deceit in front of the very family that once protected him. When the storm of whispers finally died down, the family turned to Batu, no longer with pity in their eyes but with respect. The documents, the testimonies, the truths he had laid bare could not be denied. Abio tried to speak again, but every word sounded weaker, and no one was willing to defend him anymore. The same relatives who once praised him now looked at him with disappointment, even shame. His mask of perfection had been torn apart, and nothing could cover it again. The lawyer, who had been invited to the gathering, stepped forward and confirmed that Bata had enough evidence to challenge the will and reopen the case in court. Abio's face went pale. For years he had walked with pride, believing no one would ever dare to question him. Now, with every eye in the room against him, the weight of his betrayal pressed down. He would face investigations, questions he could no longer escape, and the family he once controlled had slipped from his grasp. Batu, on the other hand, did not smile in victory. He stood quietly, his voice steady as he thanked those who had supported him and revealed the truth. The inheritance was not just about land or wealth. It was about dignity, about his right to be seen as worthy in his parents' legacy. The legal process later granted him a fair share of what he had been denied, but more importantly, it gave him back his name, his respect, and the honor that had been stolen. As the night ended, Batu reflected deeply. He had learned that betrayal often grows in silence, fed by favoritism and secrets. But he had also learned that strength is not in anger or revenge. It is in patience, courage, and the will to stand up for truth even when the world doubts you. He looked around at the relatives who now admired him, at the same family who once dismissed him, and he felt no hatred. Instead, he felt free. Abio faced the weight of his actions, but Batu carried something far greater: peace. He had reclaimed not only what he deserved but also his dignity, and that victory could never be taken away. His story closed not in bitterness but in triumph, leaving behind a lesson that loyalty, truth, and resilience will always shine brighter than betrayal.